Alright everyone, we start off today yet again talking about Syria. Actually a little bit of hope there because right now Beijing Biden is being hammered by people on all sides of the aisle in Congress as well as elsewhere, except by his inner circle and the true like neocon neolib types. They all close ranks, and there are actually quite a few Republicans who have no problem with warmongering, because that's what the GOP until fairly recently really stood for. But first and foremost, there will be a pinned comment on this video with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use, so you can join me there, and you do get exclusive content on alt tech sites as of probably next week. Right now it's still BitChute exclusives. I'm moving to just general alt tech exclusives to sort of diversify my video portfolio. Anyway, link in the description. Because when Tim Kaine, who's a big-time neolib, you'll remember him possibly as the running mate of Hillary Clinton in her failed bid for the presidency. When Tim Kaine is calling out a fellow Democrat, you know they've probably blundered a little bit too much. Like, normally the Democrats are much better at closing rank for partisan purposes. But you're not seeing that right now in the Syria strikes. You've seen most of the leftists have come out strongly against Biden striking Syria, because the problem is this. Number one, they're trying to cast these airstrikes that were conducted on Iranian-backed militias as defensive, based on U.S. troops being subject to rocket fire. More intelligent people are wondering why the troops are there to be hit with rocket fire in the first place. They're not really fulfilling any real function. It's almost like we just have a small contingency of troops in Syria for the purposes of being able to conduct airstrikes and defend and claim defense. Number two, the Biden admin came out almost immediately and said, well, it's to make a point. We're just making a point that we're, America's back. Okay, yeah, America's back at the warmongers table. That's wonderful to hear. By the way, this is what Biden voters, the few of them, Hong Kong, that exist, actually voted for. Stimulus? I can wait. It's stimulus, doesn't matter as much. Meaningful reform in any manner, according to what Democrats would want. Now, you know what they want? They want more missiles. They want more bombs dropped on third worlders. That's what Biden's voters voted for. Now, don't say I didn't tell you so. I did. More intelligent individuals said, look, Trump's not a peacenik. He's not a peace dove or anything, but he's certainly by far, since at least Jimmy Carter, the least warmongering U.S. president. The most reluctant to use force, the most likely to attempt even difficult diplomacy, going to North Korea or talking to the Russians or whatever. Biden has reverted us to the post-Reagan doctrine of simply invading and causing perpetual conflict. Some of these conflicts now are going on like fucking 2 decades. Wasn't it 2001 that we invaded Afghanistan initially? Or was it shortly into 2002? We've been there forever. We've been in parts of Pakistan and in Syria and in parts of North Africa. We withdrew from the one theater that it sort of makes sense to be in, which is Somalia, because that, you can fight piracy more easily. The Chinese are moving into the region in Djibouti and places like that, and it makes sense to have some sort of a presence there. We're desperately needed. The Kenyan government especially wants our presence. But yeah, Biden conducts these strikes, and the funny thing is, you can actually, because of the nature of the internet now, you can look back and see Biden and also Jen Psaki, and I'll read that verbatim on my Minds post in a second. You can see their statements condemning exactly this kind of action when Trump was the president. Remember when he struck that Syria airbase? Well, here's Jen Psaki's case in point. This is from that time, 2017. Also, what is the legal authority for strikes? Assad is a brutal dictator, but Syria is a sovereign country. Interesting how the times have changed. I guess they're sovereign if the president has an R after his name, or if the president is much more reluctant to use that force. If he wants to send 100,000 troops into some godforsaken desert to perpetually enshrine U.S. foreign policy, I'm sure that she wouldn't have a problem with it. One problem that I have is this, and this goes to the, well, it was just a defensive action explanation for the strikes. And they are using 2 explanations. It was defensive, it was to make a point. I don't understand. The problem that I have with that is that it begs the question, is that in time going to be used as an excuse for more force in the region when they come under something more than sporadic rocket fire? Getting a couple of fucking RPGs fired at your troops is different from them getting, half wiped out by IEDs in a massive trap. Or they get into a firefight with thousands of jihadis that mass on some border somewhere and fucking massacre them. And then Beijing Biden would come out to the nation, oh, we were massacred, man. Corn Pop, he's a bad dude. He became a jihadi, I guess, because, I beat him up back in the day. And now all of a sudden, jihadi Corn Pop has tens of thousands of jihadists out in the desert. We've got to stop them because, we can't let him cut people with a rusty straight razor anymore. It's insane. The problem is that the U.S. has consistently done this. And other countries do too. This isn't a unique policy. You put some troops somewhere in a vulnerable position, you let them get hit, and then use it as a justification for more action. It's warmongering 101. It's been happening for a very, very long time. It doesn't make sense. Some of these same neocons and neolibs that right now have no apparent problem, and thankfully that's not actually a huge number of them. A lot of people, the left, certainly elements of the right, even some, again, when Tim Kaine is condemning the action and saying he needs to explain this, it's a problem. The thing is that a lot of these people declared such actions to be blatantly in violation of the Constitution when Trump was president. Exactly the same kind of cautionary or defensive actions, like the killing of Soleimani, or the bombing of that Syrian airbase. Oh, don't worry, we told people, to leave the airbase because, they attacked our people, we said fuck you, and, we're going to do what we want. We're not afraid to use our force in the region. And Trump, used the same excuse at the time, which was, well, we're making a statement. Although in that case, I don't think he invoked it being defensive. He was like, no, I've got a big red button, don't make me press it, to make a statement. You don't need to start bombing things to make a statement. There's no reason for us to make a statement in Syria. There's no purpose to our men being there in the first place. How many troops do we even have in Syria? I know that Trump wanted to draw it down further, and I guess they lied to him openly. There are still so many unanswered questions as to how such a breakdown in communication could possibly happen that the commander-in-chief was not aware of the actual troop totals in Syria. Just saying there's something very murky and very wrong about the situation. Of course, they're misleading Biden probably too. I don't think that he himself was the one that ordered these strikes. Yeah, somebody came and said, oh, our soldiers are under rocket fire, Mr. President. Oh, well, let's bomb the hell out of them. I'm doubting that. I think some general made the call. He probably wasn't even initially aware, which might exactly explain why we've got two different stories as to why the strikes occurred. Oh, we were making a point. Don't mess with us. Oh, it was defensive. They came under rocket fire. I suppose those two aren't mutually exclusive, but they do seem to be entirely different ways of casting that particular military interaction. So, yeah, the Democrats, to some of their credit, some of them are lambasting Biden. Some of them are out like we shouldn't be doing this is pointless, including the leftists. It's hilarious to see them bite the hand that fed them their careers. Some of them, like Tim Kaine, will do the lukewarm thing, like, well, with this Congress, we need an explanation, Mr. President. Now, he would accept any explanation given. He's not going to press the issue. But merely the fact that this was an unpopular enough move to force members of Congress from his own party to demand that explanation, especially when you have all of these hypocritical statements from the last few years by Jen Psaki, by Biden, and by others, and by others that are now backing this action against Trump when he did the same thing, it could turn into a spectacle. Now, this is not the sort of thing that you want to do in the first 100 days of your presidency. Right now, people's top priorities, they want the stimulus, which I oppose even existing, and they're having so many problems with that it's become a chuckle fuck. The stimulus, and COVID, sort of related to that, and then the economy. That's what people are, they're not concerned about what goes on in Syria right now. In fact, I think that's why he might take more unilateral action. And this won't be the last time, by the way, that he decides to bomb something, or his handlers, rather. Because he's like, well, people are distracted by other things, so maybe I can act with more impunity. I can play with these toys. Oh man, I remember when Barack was the president, how much I wanted to order people to die, says Joe Biden. I think that's how some of these psychopaths actually work. That's about all. Peace out.